The cabin shook violently as oxygen masks dropped and passengers screamed in panic. The flight attendants tried to calm everyone, but chaos spread like wildfire at 30,000 feet. Then, amid the terror, a young woman closed her eyes, whispered a single call sign, and suddenly the entire mood in the plane shifted. Who was she, and why did that one word silence the storm? The seatbelt sign was on, but no one paid attention. The flight had been smooth for the first hour, until the sudden jolt that rattled coffee cups, tossed overhead bags, and sent a child's toy rolling down the aisle. The plane shook again, harder this time, and a collective gasp swept through the cabin. Passengers grabbed armrests, eyes darting toward the windows as turbulence tossed the aircraft like a leaf in the wind. Then, with a sickening dip, the oxygen masks dropped. Panic hit instantly. Screams echoed. A mother clutched her toddler, whispering prayers. A businessman argued with a flight attendant, demanding answers. Somewhere near the back, someone cried, "We're going down!" In the middle of row 17, a woman sat still. She was in her late 30s, quiet, with sharp eyes that didn't waver even as chaos erupted around her. Unlike everyone else, she didn't fumble with the mask or shout at the attendants. She simply breathed slowly, watching. That composure didn't go unnoticed. A young man 2 seats over barked nervously, "What's wrong with you? Aren't you scared? Or are you too tough to care?" His voice cracked with fear, but the accusation hung in the air. Others turned to look at her too, some desperate for calm, others irritated by her silence. She didn't answer. She just adjusted her seatbelt and kept scanning the cabin, her eyes sharp and calculating, as though she were somewhere else entirely, somewhere far more dangerous than a commercial airliner. Another violent shake threw drinks and luggage to the floor. A passenger shouted angrily, "If we crash, your cold attitude won't save you." Someone else muttered about her scars, thin, pale marks running from her jaw down her neck, disappearing under her collar. To them it was strange. To her it was simply history written on skin. The flight attendants did their best, rushing between seats, urging calm, but the fear was spreading too fast. People were shouting, crying, even praying aloud. The sound of panic was louder than the engines. And then, in the midst of that storm, the woman finally closed her eyes. She inhaled slowly, as if grounding herself in a ritual she had performed 1,000 times before. And in the faintest voice, barely audible over the chaos, she whispered 2 words. Her call sign. Those near her froze. They recognized it instantly. The tension in the air didn't vanish, but it shifted. Panic gave way to shock, respect, and, for the first time since the plane had jolted, silence began to ripple through the cabin. At first, only the passengers sitting closest to her heard it. A short, clipped word that carried weight far heavier than its sound. The young man who had mocked her blinked in disbelief. His face, once twisted with fear and arrogance, now turned pale. He stammered, "Wait, did you just say?" The woman opened her eyes, calm and unflinching. She didn't repeat it. She didn't need to. And now, one of them was sitting beside him, scars carved into her skin like metals no one could steal. But not everyone understood. Across the aisle, another passenger scoffed. "What is that supposed to mean? Some secret code? This isn't a movie. It's real life." His voice was sharp, desperate, clinging to skepticism as a shield against fear. Others joined in, confused. "Why is everyone so quiet?" Someone whispered. "Who is she?" The young man who had mocked her before now turned defensive. "She's not just anyone. That call sign, it belongs to someone who's, well, not normal. You don't survive what she's survived by being normal." The murmurs spread. Snippets of recognition surfaced, pieces of stories half remembered. A helicopter rescue no one thought possible. A night mission that had saved dozens. A woman who had walked through fire and returned when no one else could. Meanwhile, the turbulence hadn't stopped. The plane jolted again, overhead compartments rattling, and the pilot's voice crackled over the intercom. "Ladies and gentlemen, please remain calm. We are experiencing severe turbulence. "We are in control, repeat, we are in control." But his reassurances were thin against the backdrop of panic. The woman leaned back in her seat, her voice low but firm now. "Breathe, all of you. Fear will do more damage than this plane ever could." Her words cut through the noise, not shouted, but carried with an authority that didn't need volume. It was the voice of someone who had commanded before, in situations where silence or chaos meant life or death. The flight attendants, though still rushing between rows, noticed the shift. People were actually listening, not because they wanted to, but because instinct told them they should. The same man who had mocked her before now clutched the armrest, staring at her with wide eyes. He whispered, almost reverently, "I can't believe it's really you." And though most of the cabin still didn't fully grasp who she was, they could feel it. The weight of her presence, the history in her scars, the power behind a single call sign whispered into the storm. What had begun as chaos was turning into something else, something steadier. And in that moment, as fear wrestled with respect, the woman's true identity was about to surface. The storm outside hadn't eased. Lightning flickered against the windows, illuminating pale faces frozen between fear and awe. But inside the cabin, something had shifted. The passengers no longer looked only to the flight attendants or the faceless voice of the pilot. They looked to her. The woman sat upright, shoulders squared, eyes steady. Every movement she made was deliberate, precise, controlled. She wasn't a passenger anymore. She was something more, and everyone sensed it. One of the attendants approached cautiously, bracing herself against the shaking aisle. "Ma'am," she whispered, her voice trembling. "Who are you?" The woman didn't answer immediately. Instead, she adjusted the oxygen mask of the frightened child across from her, gently tucking it behind the girl's ears. Only then did she speak, her tone calm, measured. "My name isn't what matters," she said. "What matters is that you stay calm. Fear is contagious, but so is courage." But for many in the cabin, the call sign still echoed in their minds. Someone finally spoke it aloud. "Valkyrie." The reaction was immediate. Gasps, wide eyes, and hushed murmurs spread through the rows like a wave. Even those who had no idea what it meant could tell by the way others reacted. It carried weight, history, and a story no ordinary passenger could claim. "The Valkyrie?" The young man beside her whispered, stunned. "The one from Kandahar, from the rescue mission. That was you." The scars on her neck caught the dim cabin lights, and for the first time, she didn't turn away from them. Instead, she met his gaze with quiet defiance. "That was me." The cabin went silent. No more mocking, no more doubt, only respect, tinged with shame from those who had laughed before. The plane rocked again, a hard dip that sent stomachs lurching. But now, instead of screams, there was focus. Passengers breathed slower, steadier, copying her rhythm. Mothers soothed children with calmer voices. Even the attendants drew strength from her composure, moving with greater control. It was as though her presence had anchored them all. Her call sign a reminder that survival was possible, even in the worst storms. Finally, after what felt like hours, the captain's voice returned over the intercom, stronger this time. "Ladies and gentlemen, we've cleared the turbulence. We're stable now. Thank you for your patience." Relief swept the cabin, laughter breaking out in small, shaky bursts. Some cried, some whispered prayers of gratitude. And yet, more than the pilot's words, it was her that everyone remembered. The woman who had sat quietly in row 17, mocked for her scars, dismissed for her silence, until she whispered her call sign. As the plane smoothed into calm skies, passengers stole glances at her, each one carrying the same unspoken thought. We weren't flying with just another traveler. We were flying with a warrior. And though she never once sought their admiration, she had it, completely. And yet, more than the pilot's words, it was her that everyone remembered. The woman who had sat quietly in row 17, mocked for her scars, dismissed for her silence, until she whispered her call sign. As the plane smoothed into calm skies, passengers stole glances at her, each one carrying the same unspoken thought. We weren't flying with just another traveler. We were flying with a warrior. And though she never once sought their admiration, she had it completely.